Do do
Yeah.
do. We need theme music. I can start humming.
Yeah.
Welcome. You're the early people joining us at It's Showtime. Our initial episode, episode 1, episode fun. It's Showtime and Expert Insights. I'll tell you, we're going to do a little chit chat as we wait for everybody to enter the room. So if you're just coming in, don't worry. This is just the, talking. I was nervous, honestly, because I was not expecting, and obviously Waka-san's here, the level of guests that the first 5, it made me very nervous. I have been freaking out for the last couple of weeks, freaking out for a lot of reasons, but this was one of them. It's been kind of a crazy couple weeks. So I started thinking, I don't know much about anime, so I started actually watching Dan to Dan. Have you heard of this one? And Spy Family.
Spy Family, yeah.
I made the old person mistake. I thought it was Spy Times Family, but no, it's just Spy Family, even though there's an X in the title. And what I found was interesting was if our viewers haven't seen these yet, you can watch them on, if you're in the States, you can watch them on Netflix and Crunchyroll. I believe you can find these things. Dan to Dan is like if you took a kind of an 80s, 90s teenage romp and then dropped it into an episode of The X-Files, like a simultaneous UFO and Monster of the Week episode. And Spy Family is if it's what it sounds, very Deutschland 83, this sort of mythical East Berlin, West Berlin kind of vibe. And so I started just kind of like binging these over the last couple of weeks. It also helped distract me a little bit. It was really cool.
But you know what is interesting? So my 11-year-old daughter, she was very much into Spy Family last year and the year before. And I was like, how can this be interesting really for a girl that age? But it wasn't just her. I mean, her friends, they were very much into this. And then, of course, as parents, we watched it. And then my husband watched it. He watched all the, I think the whole thing with her. And I watched parts of it. But still, to me, as you say, it's really beyond me. How can kids really like this anime?
The young girl character is adorable. And the voice cast on is excellent. I think what was interesting to me, and I think it's something that anime does better than pretty much any other genre that I know, is that they can take a genre and make it a character. Like sometimes you watch movies, like if you remember Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Chicago becomes almost a character in that movie. Or if you're watching, like I think it was Little Miss Sunshine from 2005, that VW bus, like a car, a Batmobile. Like sometimes like objects can become Wilson and Castaway becomes like a character in the production. I've never seen a genre become almost like a character because it lives in a hyper sort of world where I can't tell what year it is in Spy Family. I think it's the 1980s, but it has little bits of everything. But it pulls from so many of the genre tropes and does it so well. They have a dog named Bond with a bow tie, and they pull it off. It's something that I think just needs to be recognized. And I think maybe if we ever do another talk about it, is talking about anime and how it can take these sort of like contrived genres and just put a new spin on them and make them intriguing again. It's something that I think they do better. I don't know if it's just the medium or just they got the writing talent, does better than most because it never really feels contrived. But anyway, so we were talking about that. That was something I was thinking about. That's how I was distracting myself.
Right.
For this show, because we had guests that we were going to have, and we're going to start officially. All those who are in, welcome to the first episode of Japan Expert Insights. It's Showtime edition, and our guest is a true journalist. And I don't say that, like, first of all, let's be honest. In this day and age, journalists are the heroes because we're a dying breed. They're an endangered species. And we need them now more than ever. So when I found out that Waka Konohana Ikeda-san was going to be on the show, part of why I was getting nervous because her and our other guests are just at such a higher level than I just never anticipated, just rolling this out. And it's just wonderful to have her. She's written for the Japan Times. She's written for Newsweek, Huffpost, ELLE, Vogue. I mean, and she knows her stuff. So we just couldn't be more thrilled and excited to have her on. So ladies and gentlemen, everybody, and you can just do the virtual clapping.
Yes.
Konohana Ikeda. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Michael. You are making me very nervous.
I'm sorry. It's the nervousness is rubbing off, apparently. I don't mean it to, Oh, man. We're 5 minutes out and I'm screwing this up. Oh, man. This is just one.
Okay, so I actually am not an anime expert, but I have been interviewing movie people from Oscar-winning directors to actors. So I really like to share what I have learned from those experts about the movie industry and share it with you today.
And you've been doing this for how long? Like, it's been a bit. A little bit.
You mean since I have been a journalist?
Yeah.
About like 14 years.
Wow.
Well, that's a long time already, and thank you very much for agreeing to be with us today. And yeah, I'm excited. I really want to learn more, and I know that well, there isn't a better person to learn from than you. So thanks a lot for this. Yeah.
So we're going to roll into our topics right away, but before we do, Waka-san, I always want to ask, why do you write? Why do you do what you do?
Why do I write?
Yeah.
So I think I told you before, maybe, but
yeah, we had the pre-talk. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so about 18 years ago, I came back from New York to Japan. I was a corporate person, and I was pregnant at that time. So I thought, okay, I'll take maybe 4 years career break, and then get back to a corporate person again. But when I did that in Tokyo, I couldn't get a job, and I was devastated because I was basically a cosmetic company. I was a cosmetic marketer, and I studied cosmetics marketing at university, and I did an internship, and I got a job in New York City, and I had like maybe 8, 9 years of experiences. That my international experiences did not mean anything here. And I had to start thinking, what is wrong with this society where I was wasn't 40 years old, and why I couldn't get a job. First, I had started blaming men. This is a discrimination against women here. But then I start deeply analyzing why, why people cannot move, why there's no mobility in a society. And this, I just learned this is a very cultural, historical, very deep embedded social immobility. Maybe since before Meiji Restoration. But anyway, there are things don't have answers for yet. But writing has become my journey to find out why, and what I can do, what kind of voices I want to share with people here. That's why I write.
It's wonderful. And by the way, for anyone who wants to check out Waka-san's work, she doesn't just write about entertainment. She writes about a whole series of things. And we're going to definitely have her back on the show because there's more than one topic that we want to cover with her. But tonight we're talking about the future of Japanese entertainment, because for a first episode, why not just swing for the fences and just go with the most pretentious, ridiculous title on the planet? So there we go.
Right.
Now, so right away we're going to talk about, and if I'm pronouncing this wrong, I apologize. Japonism or Japonism is what's the correct word? Right. So we're going to lead into this because in order to understand the future, we have to understand the past.
The past, yeah.
And so Waka-san,
what is Yes, I think we are in the third wave of Japonism. And if you look at Tokyo Vice, Monarch, Netflix House of Ninja, now Disney's Shogun, all of these start happening. This co-international production with Japan, Japan-based content has been very popular since 2022. I would say this is the third Japonism. And the first Japonism happened in the late 19th century. I think, Michael, you know that better, right? Because Japanese restoration, ukiyo-e,
I always say
ramen.
"Gakusei desu, mada desu." I'm always learning, always a student. I know about a bit of it because Hiroshi and Hokusai and the woodblock prints and the art that came out of that period. The 100 Views of Edo is one of my favorite treasures on the planet. I also know too, because obviously studying arts, Van Gogh was able to get a hold of the Japanese art, and that's what influenced him. And because there was no internet, nobody could accuse him of cultural appropriation because it took 10 years to figure things out. So it was a different time, but it was interesting to see even then, because we know that the fascination of Japan, once, Matthew Perry, not the guy from Friends, but with an actual admiral or colonel or something, he was on a boat and he opens up Japan, and then all of a sudden we get these wave of Japanese goods in Europe. And so that was, I believe, in summary, the first wave.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So that Japanese, the first wave of Japanism influenced so many Western artists, not only in the arts, also techniques. But the second Japanism happened after World War II. So, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are dark and tragic memories for Japan, but it also means a rebirth of our Japanese new identity as a humanitarian state. So Osamu Tezuka's, Astro Boy, Shigeru Kayama's Godzilla, they are born from Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Those icons are the metaphors for danger of nuclear weapons, right? So since then, Japan has had positive image. Japan has contributed to global community, including developing countries. And also that time, the second Japanese, Akira Kurosawa, Yasujiro Ozu, are also born out of this new Japanese culture, the identity.
Yeah.
What do you think?
If you don't mind me jumping into this, to me it is fascinating observing these three different waves because every time Japanism happened out of Japan, of course, so Japan was on the rise also economically, right? So the economy of Japan was improving and everything. And so I think that these waves also of Japanism, they also show the fascination of the world with Japanese resilience and the Japanese, how can I say, the culture of, let's say, the motivation to improve and grow. And it is, I believe, on the surface, it's not really connected in any way to animation and everything. But every time that happened, Japan has been, on the rise, economically, also industrially, and everything. So it's a very different perspective. Maybe it's just a 90-degree, jumping into this topic. But it also shows that there is so much for the world to learn when it comes, through the perspective of arts as well, and anime, and also films and television and everything. So just I couldn't help but, notice this.
And what I find fascinating is how the interplay. So like the first wave, Van Gogh sees Japanese art and it affects his work, his paintings. That second wave, the Northern California film scene, guys like George Lucas, we all know well, I shouldn't say we all know. I think we have a wide variety of audience, so I never want to say anything that sounds too pretentious. I want to say, well, the Hidden Fortress was obviously one of the basis for Star Wars. And when you watch that opening scene of the Hidden Fortress, tall guy and a small guy walking through the desert, it's like that's R2D2 and C3PO. They were heavily, I would say heavily, I don't know if that's speaking to, but they were definitely influenced by Japanese cinema. So, and growing up in the 80s, I was a little too young for Speed Racer. And I think a lot of people, when they think of the old anime, they think of Speed Racer. But truth is, we had Transformers, we had Ghostbusters, and a lot of those were done by anime studios. When you look at the credits, you find that, oh no, they were just cranking these out as well as their own material. So I think for a lot of us, you could see how it kind of seeped in. And then, and of course, Star Wars once again was a big hit in Japan, and it's been fun to see how it bounces back and forth.
Right. But it's fascinating against Michael what you just said about Transformers and Ghostbusters and everything. It's all about transformation, isn't it? I mean, like,
Yeah. Well,
I,
I'll let Waka-san feel that one.
yeah, I hope you feel that way too. But also, it's like all about transformation and all these, Japanism waves. They actually happened when Japan was in a transition period. So I don't know whether you feel that Japan is in a period of transition like right now, but I believe that we can safely say that it is. And I don't know. This is just my opinion, okay? So Waka-san, I would love to hear your perspective on this.
Yes. So yeah, I agree with you, Maya-san. I'm very normally very pessimistic about the Japanese society. But
Okay.
also positive things are happening, right? I mean, we have now transforming, I think, to be more gender equal society, and but economy has been stagnated for like 30 years, you know that. But transformation, I thought that's a really interesting point because Japanese government's cool Japan policy has been happening since 2011. So like last year, the government spent like 654 million US dollars, which is not that much, but the government is really trying to promote a cool Japan policy that promotes Japanese art, food, culture. So this is characterized by the rise of international co-production, because Cool Japan actually also has like tax breaks for location. Attracting locations. So if you shoot movies and dramas in Japan, now they get up to 50% of levers. There's a limited amount of money, but all of this, the government has this strategic initiative. It's really, really attracting international co-productions and also exporting the Japanese culture and content. So, Demon Slayer was huge, right? It was big in, 2022, maybe. I don't know how much exactly was it made in the US, but I heard like the beginning, it was like 20 million opening weekends and maybe 500 million worldwide sales. So this is also one of the reasons why the the third wave of Japanese is happening is because of this, Japanese government's cool Japan policy. And also there are like, another political reason. I mean, Hollywood is actually kind of taking a distance from China. I mean,
Mhm.
China, it's because of China's has a strict censorship. As you know, I mean, even out of like Brad Pitt's movies, there are probably at least four movies that were banned. Like 7 Years in Tibet, The Last
Right.
Airbender,
Mm.
World War Z, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Those movies are banned. Um, the censorship has become very strict since 2012 when Xi Jinping came into power, but
Mhm.
also it's got worse since 2019 because I think that 2019 was the 70th anniversary of the party, Communist Party,
Yeah.
Chinese CCP. So
Yes.
Hollywood used to focus on Chinese market, which is like 7 billion US dollars in revenue, box office revenue. But I think the honeymoon ended around 2017 to 2019. As far as I know, 2017's Great Wall, starring Matt Damon,
Yeah,
was
we had Matt Damon for this. Poor guy. Just all the things he gets saddled with. Yeah, the great.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very good movie. That was the thing. I think everyone meant well, but it just didn't gel. I
it's
will
just
also say, oh, go ahead. I'm so sorry, Waka-san.
no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say too was that it's always kind of been a one-way street though with the U.S.-China like entertainment relationship because you
Mm.
know we would send films to China because we wanted those dollars, but Chinese entertainment never really translated well here in the States. Whereas Japan entertainment, I mean, everyone knows about anime and everything, but even then, like it just seemed like Japan entertainment in general just seemed to crack through just the zeitgeist, if you want to call it, a lot better. So it's more of a two-way street, and it's becoming even more so. I would say after COVID, I think a lot of people got into Squid Game, and then the next thing we know, we're seeing a lot more entertainment coming in from Asia. But I'm definitely seeing my Netflix queue getting just jammed with old and new Japanese television shows and films. So it is happening.
Yeah, it is happening, and I wonder what is different there. So why? It's wonderful that the Japanese entertainment and drama series and ideas and everything are very well accepted in the United States. But I wonder what makes them so easily acceptable.
Yeah, Waka-san, you got any ideas? Because I like it, but I don't know.
I love many Chinese movies, especially done by like independent, more like art house, Chinese art house. Like Rowie is my favorite, but it's just the censorship make it so difficult for the creators to create whatever they want, because they ban ghosts, they ban what is homosexuality, they ban everything. I mean, they cannot criticize anything about the country, but the establishment. It's really difficult to make a great content with that kind of censorship. So obviously, whatever Chinese creators can make it be kind of like just very commercial without any criticism about the society, no fantasy. Of course, there's SF movies, but can't be. I don't think you can have a global competition with that kind of censorship.
Right.
The last great Chinese movie I saw, and there were probably more recent ones, but the one I remember was called A Touch of Sin. But that was 2013. We're talking 12 years ago.
Oh wow!
If you remember that one, but it was basically kind of like I think it's 4 stories that were based on things that actually happened in China, and it was very controversial. And I think that was kind of like the last film that sort of I remember really tackled that. But gosh, you're talking 12 years ago, and yeah, it stifles the creativity. But the one thing I think about is that because obviously South Korea, really seemed to crack, like they were first through the gate. If you don't count anime, I think anime was definitely, that was the first. But then, and I know that the myth goes that, the South Korean president had seen Jurassic Park in 1993. And he saw that, oh, wow, we'd have to sell like, thousands of Hyundais to make that kind of money. We should just be getting an entertainment. And it took a long time. But eventually, Gangnam Style comes out in 2012. And the next thing you know, I think it was in 2013 when the YouTube Video Awards awarded it to Girls' Generation. And then that was it. And, we see what's happening in Japan. And it's like, okay, here we go. It's the momentum's there. The interest is there. You can't keep people away from your country. They're just coming in, just wrecking the place. We're working on that. But, Japan is just so in vogue right now. But there are issues with the film industry. So, and I know, Waka-san, this is definitely where your expertise is really.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that you mentioned about Korea. I love Korean movies and dramas. And now that in 2022, 3 Korean companies established the Studio Dragon Japan, like Line Digital Frontier, CJ, E&M, Studio Dragon. And the TBS also has a partnership with CJ, E&M to jointly produce at least 3 TV dramas, and 2 feature films. And right now, over, right? TBS, I Love You. I think it's over, over now.
I think it's over for now. Yeah.
Oh, I Love You. Yeah, we got it here in the States. Unless they're doing a season 2. Okay. Fun fact for the people in the States: TBS that's Tokyo Broadcasting. We have Turner Broadcasting. There's 2 different TBSs, one in the States and one in Japan. But a fun fact: everyone who watched Shogun, Fumi Nikaido, who played this very just kind of sinister, but you realize just broken, like all of us, just individual who's just like trying to like work her way through ancient Japan is in full wide-eyed rom-com mode. So it's kind of fun. If you've seen Shogun, I Love You is a very sugary sweet rom-com. If you like your K-dramas, your romantic comedies, you'll like this. But I enjoyed it because of the performances. The two leads were just, I could watch. They need to do like a few things with those two. They were phenomenal together. But
yeah,
anyway.
also, I think, Netflix is filming Gasman with Korea. So Korea and Japan together.
Yeah.
So the Korea has started co-producing with Japan because both countries we are facing a huge problem of shrinkage. I mean, the population shrinkage. That is the biggest challenge in the movie industry. Shrinking, population shrinkage impact. So what this is creating right now, there are like three phenomena. One is big companies shifting to fewer, higher budget global market movies like Godzilla 1.0, directed by like Takashi Yamazaki and won an Oscar in 2023. A second phenomena is IP-based content, basically manga anime adaptations, because we have this called production community funding system. It involves publishers, distributors, production company, talent agency, PR agency, music company. So the big publishers, they want to maximize the profitability on one IP, right, as mixed media. Right. So they want to use their manga or novel and then comicalize it or animatize, gamify, make a live action, and make figures and goods. This is called mixed media. So we be seeing more anime-based or light novel-based movies. I mean, we have been already. This is why many of the Japanese movies are based on this manga or anime-based or light novel-based. So that is the way they can maximize their profit. So third phenomena is that now population shrinkage is impacting, I think, potential consolidation and reducing like independent movie companies. Because big publishers and big movie companies they're going to start buying independent movie companies. Because of that, whole market is shrinking. I think this is, it could be a good thing, right? But it could be also have a negative aspect. It's going to be more competitive for creators to make, content. So I think we'll be seeing fewer independent movies in the case. But what do you think? What do you think this population shrinking impact?
I think it's an interesting space to be in because, when Godzilla -1 won the Oscar for Best Special Effects, that was the Academy sending a message to those big, bloated, CGI fests, the superhero films, saying, no, they did it way better than you guys are doing it, so shape up. And honestly, the reason why was because when you think about it, the special effects were only like maybe 10, 15 minutes into the movie. And once again, in the interesting cross, pollination, the director really likes Spielberg. So you really see a lot of Jaws and Jurassic Park in Godzilla -1. And so it's funny how we all just bounce with each other. But I think it's an interesting competitive space because and we may be a little early talking about this, but we're talking about the budgets. Like a big budget movie here in America, you're talking like $100 million, $200 million. A big budget movie would be 30 million American. And the funny thing is I've seen these, like I saw the adaptation of Bleach, which you can watch, the live action adaptation. It's good, but you can tell when they really try to swing for the fences in terms of those big budget, blockbusters, because the money isn't there, it always feels like it falls a little short. And I found that in Japanese entertainment, when they kind of do that more niche play like Godzilla -1, like these kind of films, it seems to work a lot better. So I can see why. And by the way, what's happening with that, that's what America was doing. Like the big studios started gobbling up all the independent studios about 20 years ago. So we've seen that happen before. So yeah,
Right.
I think it's getting into budgets and stuff like that. It's how you can use that money wisely and not try to, and it's an old phrase, but moneyball your way into the hearts and minds of American audiences.
Yeah. One concern is, for me personally, is Waka-san, you mentioned that we're probably going to see fewer independent movies. And personally, as somebody who enjoys watching independent movies, it's something that I don't want to see coming. And I wonder, yes, whether, Michael, you said, we have seen that before and so on.
Yeah.
But also, we have also seen independent movies won Oscars, right? They have won awards and so on before. So I wonder whether, this tendency or this trend would eventually disappear, as, of course, if we see fewer independent movies, it means that there will be less competition there as well, right? With new ideas and everything. Because the big money, actually, the big studios, the big movie companies, they will be the trendsetters eventually because they have the cash for that. So I don't know, how do you see this playing out in the next maybe 5 to 10 years? What are your thoughts on this?
For the start, I think you both have an interesting point, and I'm glad that we're talking about budget because definition of big budget, mid budget, low budgets are by in Hollywood is completely different from Japan.
Mhm.
Japanese
Right,
are
yeah.
less than 3 million. I mean, less than even 1 million US dollars. Like,
Mhm.
Kamera Tomeruna, One Cut of the Dead by, Shinichiro Ueda. The movie was the budget was only 15,000 US dollars, and then it generated over $15 million. And then,
Mhm.
right now, Samurai Time Sleeper is very, very popular in Japan. It's being screened right now, but the budget was 180K, directed by Junichiro Yasuda. And this is like a self-made movie. Both, Kamera Tomena, Samurai Time, they both are self-made movie, ultra low budget, right? And
Mhm.
even like Hamaguchi is like Drive My Car. The budget was 3 million, and Godzilla was only 14 million. It's considered as a low budget
And
in
I
Japan.
can't believe that because that
Right,
movie
yeah.
looks stellar. It really does. That blows my mind. I think they should have just given it more Oscars, actually, just for pulling that off, because that is really a very lovely looking film.
But so this is why, I mean, because the budget for one movie is so low, it creates a lot of problem. It's you know, it's basically low wages for creators and crews, and I mean everyone involved. Low wages and poor working conditions.
Mhm.
Uh, like in Korea, the labor law is very strict, and then they can only work for like 15 2 hours a week. So, and the movie companies really strictly follow that rule. But here, because of the budget is so low, there's a custom that people work such a long time with getting so much pay. For example, a friend of mine has made like 8 documentary and then commercial films, and he is right now working on a ultra low budget movie, and he was told to get paid only 3,500 US dollars to direct and to write a script.
Wow.
Um, and then he was told to get paid 3 months after the movie was screened. So I mean, what kind of deal is this? This is like very I mean, this is a really, really bad, right? But you can't really blame on. I mean, this is what's happening. Is such we have such a low budget per movie, and it's because one of the reasons is because our financing system. This our financing
Mhm.
structure is called like production committee method.
Mhm.
So like I mentioned earlier, it involves multiple companies from publisher to even music company or PR agency, right? A talent agency. Basically, it involves all of the parties in the supply chain. So they put the money, invest in the movie, and they share the risk. So profitability of one movie is very low. Also, it's good because the return is low, but the risk is low as well. So how they can make money? They have to produce so much. They have to do mass production to be beneficial, profitable.
Mm-hmm.
This has created a lot of problems in Japan.
So I wonder because basically that production committee, the method they use here is like they create the vertical structure. So all the stakeholders are involved. They invest into the project, and then, well, once the project is over, they push out the production, and they get a certain amount of profit. But I wonder, so if don't you think that if they promote, if they market those products better, they might be able to get higher margins. They may get more revenue. So I wonder, is it about marketing at the end of the day? You know, poor marketing that the profits are so low, or is it because they just don't? I don't know. Maybe the movies or they produce they don't sell so well.
Yeah, that,
It's
yeah.
it's about misaligned supply and demand. I mean, Japanese people only watch one movie a year at the theater.
And that
Mm-hmm.
surprised me when you first told us that Japanese people only go to see one movie a year at the theater. That's, I mean, we know the numbers are dropping, but that was jaw dropping.
Yes, it's the number is dropping everywhere, right? And but North America, people watching two movies. France 2.3, it's South Korea 2.2, Australia 2.2. It's like a double of double number of Japanese people. So, but yet, while French only produce 300 movies a year, Japanese company produce 670 movies. I mean, this is way too many movies for people to consume. So I don't think it's a misaligned supply and demand. It's just this is a trend, right? I mean, the whole movie industry is shrinking, but what are we gonna do? I think that I don't have the answer, but there are a couple things. I mean, I've can suggest from interviewing people like experts
By all means.
to expand the market actually. So I've been speaking about it with many people to expand our basically it's just the shrinkage of market is happening. I mean, it's in every industry here. We are
Right.
have a declining population. So what we can do is we have to do international production, or we have to export our content to global market. So to do that, Kanako Kondo, who is in the talent management, international co-production, she suggests tax breaks for overseas sales. Right now, there's tax breaks for bringing foreign countries to invest in Japan, but there's no tax breaks for the Japanese companies to make on their overseas sales. So that could encourage more Japanese creators to be more globally focused, and maybe people start making movies like Godzilla. Also, the second suggestion is to build a large state of the art studios. We do have a big studio here, but which was built like years ago. We need more. We need something like a Korea. Korea's studios are much bigger than Japan, and also we need a city like Vancouver, you know, to have this like state of the art studio that attract both domestic and international productions. Um, Like, for example, Shogun was shot in Vancouver because there was no set or infrastructure here in Japan. Johnny Depp's Minamata was shot in Serbia. It's really
Right.
too bad. It's really sad for me to see content that is based in Japan is not being shot in Japan, right? But we do
Mhm.
not have studios. We do not have a big set. We don't have a enough English speaking people, right?
Mm.
So if the Hollywood movie can come here or a Korean movie and drop, they can drop like, Hollywood blockbuster movie can drop $1 million a day in the local economy. So
Right.
that second suggestion. Actually, this was suggested by Shinsuke Fujimoto, who is the assistant producer of Koreeda's Baby Hunger.
Yeah.
Um,
May
was
I
that
ask you? Yes. So yes, one of the suggestions, as you say, is well, build those facilities here and attract productions to be shot here in Japan. But what do you think? What is your take? Should it be because basically we know that those facilities they cannot build in Tokyo, right? So there isn't enough space and so on. So they inevitably have to be somewhere on the outskirts or maybe in the local areas. So, but what is your take on this? Should these facilities be built or the investment for them, should it be provided by the central government of Japan or should it be provided by the local authorities then? Um, because it's a lot of investment, right? It's a lot of money building such facilities because it's not just building the buildings, right? Yes, Mike.
exactly?
I was going to throw more wrinkle, or should it be American studios who, after the successes of Shogun and the Sonic
Hmm.
trilogy, see a
Yeah.
market here? But go ahead. Yeah.
Or should it be a private investment, right?
Yeah.
Not, yes, local authorities, not the central government, but just a private investment. Waka-san, what is your take on this?
I would say the central government because I don't think local government have that much money. And then also Cool Japan initiative. They spend millions of dollars on this initiative, so they should have money to do that. And but also, I agree with you, Maya-san. It cannot be controlled by only the central government. It have to be a collaboration of maybe because local community, local corporations and local government because that's for the local, right? I mean, they have to create jobs, create economy, create art, and maybe even education there. Some film school that foster a crew that can do editing, lighting. I mean, there are all kinds of jobs, right, in filmmaking.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be a director or writer, but there are other jobs. And then actually, there are not enough people who can
Mhm.
do global uh, sales produce. We don't have an international sales agent here either. There are a lot in America and in France and in South Korea that only focus on international sales and financing.
Mm.
So we do
Well,
need to foster a variety of people. Maybe in a big, set and a studio, we could also build schools.
schools as well, yes. I think that's a great idea because, as you say, the talent, as it is called here in Japan, or people with this skill set are still not so many. But this is probably one of the ways to think about also revitalizing the local areas, right? Because everybody's talking about travel and tourism, doing that, but there are also other industries that can be very, very helpful. And definitely, movie production is one of them. Sorry, Michael, I see
I was
that you
going
have
to say, no, I
some.
was, oh, no, because I was going to think too, part of it is just, it was just coming to me.
Yeah.
Is the cool Japan movement cooling? Is that part of it? Because obviously there was the 2020 Olympics, and then there was going to be all this hoopla. And I know when I was talking about Japan entertainment, just like 5 years ago, it was going to be, well, geez, we got to recover from, COVID. We got to make up some of this money. And now you can't keep tourists out of the country. So is it, I always wondered, one, if part of it is that everyone's kind of getting like, okay, you know what, we're attracting a little too much attention, maybe we need to push off a little bit. But then I also wonder too, maybe the Cool Japan movement needs to change its direction a little bit. Like, how great would it be if we were getting TV shows? Because I don't know how many of you who are watching have been in Japan. It's very different. It's wonderful. It really is. I absolutely love it. But there are certain sort of like rules and regulations. Like, there's not a lot of garbage cans, so don't do takeout if you can help it. Stand in line for the train. And when you're a tourist, you're just like, I feel like a lost wandering water buffalo. And I know the rules, and I'm still like bumping into things. Is it a case where if the Cool Japan movement is in fact cooling, does it need to be redirected into something that's more like entertainment that's also informative and helping people who are interested and fascinated with Japan understand it a bit more before they get on a plane?
But you know, I mean, well, some tourism expert told me that because the tourists only go to certain places like Kyoto, Tokyo, Osaka. So that's why it's created over tourism. So, but there are so many places that the people gonna like, right? Rural areas, Tohoku, that's like northern Japan, Hokkaido, northern Japan. Those are great places. Also, Beppu. Actually, Beppu is doing great in Kyushu in the South Japan. So Beppu, in terms of tourism, Beppu is a very interesting, successful case that could be applied to movie industry. I just thought of it. Beppu, there's a university called APU, Asian Pacific University, that is a part of Rikyu University. So APU has interesting majors. So one of the majors is tourism. And then even like 48% of the students are foreigners.
Oh, right.
They come to APU, and it's in a beautiful, beautiful like location on the mountain. You can look down the Beppu city, and then also Beppu, Michael. If you don't know, Beppu, it's a city that has the most onsen in Japan, and it's in the south, so it's very close to China, Taiwan, South Korea, Korea Peninsula. So people from, Asia, East Asia, often travel to Beppu. So it's very popular. So anyway, so the foreign students come to Beppu to study at APU, study tourism, and then they do work as a part-time at like hotels or restaurants or like a tourist industry. And they do have a multiple, multicultural backgrounds. They speak multi-languages, English, Chinese, Korean, all kinds of. There are lots of Muslims too. And so they actually make the Beppu as a very attractive global tourist city. So there's like a collaboration between the local tourism and the APU education and also the foreign students. And then they do really create such a nice onsen city with, with multiple like a cultural services. So I think it's very one of rare successful cases in tourism here. So I think maybe we could learn from that, even for the movie industry, in terms of setting up alert state-of-the-art studios. Maybe making a city like Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the guy who was running the New York bar up at the Park Hyatt Tokyo, this was even 20 years later. I know they spent the last year refurbishing it. But part of why they didn't was because everyone wanted the Lost in Translation experience, for those who've seen it. And he said, even 20 years later, and yeah, we know the movie, it's 20 years old. Okay, there's going to be issues. Anything 20 years old has issues, I guarantee you. But the fact of the matter is, someone would show up once a week even all those years later with a pink wig, wanting to know where Scarlett Johansson and Bill Murray sat. So it's almost like as if Fukuoka, because they have a nice like startup fintech kind of like thing happening there. Like
Yes.
you make that next great romantic comedy in a town like that, and then it actually could pull, because people want that experience. They see the film and they can pull some of that traffic. Because I get it. Like, when I just went to Japan recently, we did the same. You do the same stuff, right? Like you get, of course, because you don't know if you're ever going to go back. So you got to do Tokyo, you got to do Kyoto, you got to do, Nara, and you got to do all that. And so I understand why those end up being the most heavily trafficked. But once again, too, part of like traffic is you can change traffic. And if, I think next time, when we go, it's going to be different places because there's just so much to explore. And I think the real magic of Japan is definitely when you get out of the tourist areas.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Waka-san, and with you, Michael. Basically, if I can just touch upon the things that both of you mentioned, is that, yes, at the moment, first comers, Japan has been on the travel map of many people, many tourists, foreign tourists, for a relatively short time. So many of them are first comers, right? And if you're a first comer to Japan, you inevitably want to go to the big attraction places, right? Like Kyoto and Nara and Tokyo and maybe Osaka. But once you come for a second time or the third time, so basically you are not going there. You want to explore, Michael, just what you said. And I believe this will be, Japan is currently actually creating their repeat visitors, right? Because many people are still coming for the first time. But through these experiences in the most populated areas, travel populated destinations, right? So Japan is creating now their second and third time visitors. And it will come. There will be a wave, when basically I think that, the first time visitors and second and third time visitors, let's say repeat visitors, will eventually find balance. There will be balance between them. And maybe with this in mind, Waka-san, it's very important to actually think which areas we want to redirect those visitors to. So Beppu is probably one of the places, but I believe that such facilities like studios and also universities, educational facilities, they can be created in other areas as well, because Japan is really a big country, even though it looks like, a small piece of the globe, it's still a big country, and the countryside has a lot of potential. Maybe, and I wonder how this could be conveyed to the authorities in charge of this. And I believe this should be the Ministry of Education and the Cultural Agency and also the Ministry of Economy as well, and this and that. But what could be done so that these institutions, public institutions, public authorities, start actually think about redirecting travel tourist flows and also creating such attractions in the countryside?
Yeah, Maya-san. I think one of the reasons why Beppu is successful because of the foreign students,
Mm-hmm.
and they provide the lack of, shortage in labor in locally. That's a huge, right? And then
Yeah.
now and as a declining population, we are shrinking so much. If the government, all kinds of institutions, from the government, like it's the Ministry of Education, and so on, can somehow make the rural areas very attractive with education, not only for Japanese but foreign students, and attract people, not only in Tokyo, decentralized Tokyo, and have this nice tourist destination as well as state of the art studios and flourish, our film industry. I think that would be great. Um, Also, there is, I had mentioned about this funding, film funding system. There is a very interesting new movement led by Koreeda-san and Nishika Miwako-san, all the Japanese sort of like art house, but very successful art house directors and anime directors. It's called the K2 Pictures. They are the pioneer. They are the company that actually introduced a film fund system instead of having, a production committee system. They just have funds. So anybody like Michael Maya-san, you can invest in the content, a movie, and that could attract more investors from domestically and also internationally. And I think that is a very interesting movement.
Right. I
For
think that's a great idea, actually. And is that a Japanese company? Are they based in Japan?
They are based in Japan, and they are actually created by the Japanese, a group of Japanese creators from art house scenes and also the anime. So one of the leader is, of course, Hirokazu Koreeda.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Koreeda is a wonderful Japanese director, and he was the one who he didn't win for Drive My Car, but he actually right now has a show on Netflix for all my American friends called Asura that just came out, and he directed all the episodes, all 7, which I always love when a director decides to do that, and it gives you a really good taste as to his aesthetic and his sensibilities. It's a great show. It's set in late 70s Japan. 4 sisters finding out that the father had an affair and just the fallout that occurs after that. It's a wonderful show, and it's actually getting a lot of rave reviews here. So for Koreeda and guys like him, who obviously I think directors like him that's part of why the lens is starting to shift. Besides the fact that you had the big hits of Sonic and Shogun, you also have these independent directors. I mean, Drive My Car won. It was 2 years ago when they won the Oscar for Best International Feature. So it's all happening. And I think, we're running low on time, but I did want to say one more thing about this is that because all eyes are on Japan, and I think that this could be the moment where Japan entertainment really takes off and really becomes like a thing. Matt Alt, who recently wrote an article about his concerns about the, Japan's about to get introduced to the cultural wars.
Right.
It's a great article. We won't be able to top on it really. We're not going to be able to talk about it a lot. But are you concerned that the political situation here in the States is going to affect the influx of Japanese entertainment in one way or another? Waka-san, any thoughts on that?
Okay. Actually, things are working better for Japan, and then I think that, okay, don't get me wrong, I'm not judging or.
I know we're walking in a minefield here. I apologize.
And I'm not gonna state my political perspective here, but look at China. What's happening? I mean, right? Hollywood is decoupling, and then China is having such a trade war, against U.S. Very unstable right now. I heard that the crime rate is high. A lot of Japanese companies have left. I have actually close friends who left China because of this lack of, freedom. And anyway, so that is actually making Japan looks better, right, for the foreign investors. And also South Korea. I love Korean drama, K-pop, everything. But look at how unstable it is. This like political turmoil does make Japan. It's gonna work.
Yeah, I think so. I think the momentum is there. I don't see it. I will see. You never know. A lot's been happening around here the last few days. So I guess we're going to wrap up here soon, very soon. If there's one thing, Waka-san, that you would recommend here in the States that's Japanese that people should watch, what would you pick? I know I'm really just throwing this at you. This little surprise question, but I want to know, what's the movie? What's the show you would recommend for all of us?
Okay, you know Yoko Yamanaka's Nambia's desert Nambia. Let me just check in
Well, that's
English.
fine. No, that's
But
okay.
on the word in can.
Mm.
I thought she's very talented. Um, although that movie is very low budget, but it really shows about immobility of the Japanese society without any specific lines. Somehow she could have shown us like how people feel rigid. This like society is very rigid and we can move. This kind of ikizurasa. How do you translate ikizurasa, Maya-san? Here.
Oh, well, but once again, it's immobility, and it's like a stale, yes, being in a stale state of stale situation. And I don't know whether it is social mobility, whether it is like career mobility. Maybe it's both, right? But yes. And from a once again, I'm sorry for bringing this here, but I think that from a cultural perspective, it makes a lot of sense, this immobility. And basically, Japan as a social system, as a society, usually needs a shock, right? So that the status quo is disrupted, and then there is change. And maybe until we go through a shock of a sort, probably that immobility will be still here.
Also, Desert of Nambia. Okay, I just want to tell
Okay.
you
Yeah,
that
definitely.
English
Yeah.
title. It's a Desert of Nambia by Yamanaka. So I mean, I don't know if you can watch it in the States or other country right now. I'm not sure. Also, today I just found out Ito Shiori's Black Box, best documentary, and
That's
I had
beautiful.
already watched that movie, and then that was wonderful. So
Yes.
I would recommend to watch that. I think you can watch
I
it.
think that's going to show up on Max here. I think
Yeah,
that's going to show up here.
Paramount or Apple I think
Yeah,
you can.
it should go wide here, and that's
Yeah.
a great documentary, and that'll be a topic next time we bring you in about feminism in Japan and the entertainment
Yes.
industry. We were going to talk about it, but we figured for episode 1, I really didn't want to screw that up. So let's just go with something a little bit more a fastball down the middle. Waka-san, arigato gozaimasu. Thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show.
you. Yes.
Thank
Thank you
you
very much indeed.
And then next week, 2 weeks, we invite
Into
everyone to join us for, we got Douglas.
Douglas, yes.
Douglas is coming on the show.
Woohoo!
So, and Waka-san, we'd love to have you back.
Yes.
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes. Thanks
Thank you,
a lot.
everybody, for watching. This was the first episode of It's Showtime, Japan Expert Insights, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, the same time.
Same time. Thank you.